Hello everybody, welcome back to the course. Our topic today is sexuality. This particular week of the course is for many of my students one of their favourite lessons. I think it's a really interesting topic too. This is going to be one of 4 videos. In this first video, I want us to think about changing rights, changing norms. I'm going to take a historical perspective, thinking about sexuality, not this century, but in the last century. In Western states. And I'm going to take a broadly biographical approach here, sexuality and our lives, sexuality and people's identities, people's biographies. Good. Kick-off exercise for you. I'd like you together with your partner, watch the next 3-minute pop song. We're going to start with a pop song. A pop song from a few years before I was born, David Bowie on BBC's Top of the Pops, broadcast in July 1972 in, I should say, very grey Great Britain. Bowie's not great at all. Watch it. Hope you enjoy it. This particular film clip, this particular music clip, it really is famous. This, for Brits, was a moment in our cultural history. People that watched it back in July 1972, people who were there as teenagers, often talk about it as a moment that changed their lives. So this changed people's lives, people's biographies, and it changed British cultural history. Why? Why? Why is this privately and culturally so celebrated by the Brits? What's actually going on in this clip? I want you to watch it. Look out for interesting things happening. When you discuss it with your partner, note the time of particularly interesting moments. What moments do you like? What exactly, did something interesting happen at 42 seconds or 155 seconds, whatever. Note down the times, have a good look. Enjoy too the song, it's a cracking pop song. Does the song remind you of other songs maybe? Enjoy too also the lyrics. Why are the lyrics of a song also meaningful and strangely fitting to the visuals that you're seeing in the clip? Hey, as you can see, I think there's a whole bunch of it. You can talk about this. On the other hand, don't be surprised if you miss the exciting moment the first time you watch it. The hottest moment in British TV seems wonderfully harmless today. Yeah, pause here and enjoy the film. Unpause here. So what can we say about that clip? 3 minutes long. Did you catch the exciting moment? I guess the first exciting moment comes at something like 1 minute and 5 seconds. Bowie, with his band, the Spiders from Mars, had been singing this song, playing this song, Starman. He's often looking at us directly into the camera. At 1 minute and 5 seconds, Bowie gently drapes his arm over his guitarist's shoulder. In a sense, an utterly harmless gesture. And I'm guessing if you did that in the Mediterranean countries or one of the Arab countries, nobody would batter an eyelid. But the context here is that Brits don't ever touch each other. Brits are not touchy-feely people. And male-on-male touching is highly unusual. Score a goal on the football pitch, that's gonna be the only time you touch another male. So, although it may not really batter an eyelid today, the gesture of Bowie putting his arm around his guitarist is an utterly meaningful one. Bowie and his guitarist, both have beautiful hair, bright hair. They've got glitter on their faces. Their clothes are brightly coloured. This is so colourful, isn't it? Again, in context, colour TV only came something like 2 or 3 years earlier. So very, very bright, very, very glittery, very glamorous. Okay, 1 minute, 5 seconds. Then Bowie continues singing his song, and something like 30 seconds later, he sings, "I had to phone someone, so I picked on you, ooh, ooh." And singing this, he looks at us, he looks at you, he looks into your face, and he points at you, breaking down the 4th wall. Another treat comes something like 50 seconds later. Bowie drapes his arm around Ronson's shoulders a further time. The first time we had to watch it from a distance. The camera angle wasn't really what we wanted. We were struggling to see exactly what was going on. The second time it happens in a beautiful close-up. A close-up where you can see Bowie's lovely painted nails, kind of like a creamy colour, very, very elegant, very, very glamorous. He's got his hand on Ronson's shoulder again, and again, he's almost squeezing his neck with tenderness. This is meaningful stuff. What about the song itself? The lyrics are gorgeous, aren't they? This is a song about an outsider who's waiting for us, and we're going to welcome him in. okay? So the outsider, the alien, the other is not somebody to be afraid of. It's somebody that we can meet and get to know and interact with. And the tune itself, I mean, the chorus is so gorgeous, isn't it? And when Bowie sings, "There's a starman waiting in the sky," so I'm such a bad singer, it makes us think of another favourite song from our childhoods. We all have memories of watching The Wizard of Oz, which in Britain is usually on TV at Christmas time. And Judy Garland, of course, another gay icon. She died a few years earlier. She sang that song, "Somewhere Over the Rainbow." Very, very similar in terms of the jump in the melody. So we've got all kinds of associations there. We're watching this, we cannot believe it. You know, this is something private, something hidden, something secretive, a world we're not normally accessing. And here it's on peak time TV by the BBC. You know, this is a changing new world coming suddenly into our living room, into our TV in our living room. Brits watching that would have wanted to know more. You know, where can I get more information? Where can I learn more about this world? In those days, we didn't have MP3s. We actually had LP records. And going into a record shop would reveal that Bowie had actually done a whole number of records. And again, this interesting glamour, androgyny, it's all over his LP covers. You want to have more information, you want to read interviews with David Bowie. There was no internet in this world. This is a world without an internet. So if you wanted access to this world of coolness, this world of culture, well, as a teenager, I read the BBC music papers. We call them papers. They really were printed like newspapers, like tabloid newspapers. They had these wonderful, great big covers with pictures of whoever happened to be cool that month. The Enemy, I've got here, Melody Maker was the other. Bowie gave an interview with Melody Maker a few months before that BBC clip in which he talked openly about his own sexuality. "I'm gay and I always have been," Bowie declared, even back when I was David Jones. So the world was opening up. We've got a kind of snapshot here of British society in the process of social change. So there you are, kicking the topic off with 1972. I want to show you a work of fiction now. That was real. The next thing is a work of fiction. On the other hand, fiction can be just as real as reality. I found a lovely short film which I like to show my students. Rather frustratingly, I couldn't find a high definition version of this somewhere on the internet. So I've given you YouTube links here, but I really must note the picture quality and the sound quality is utterly terrible. It really is ropey. Sorry, I can't find a better quality link for you guys. On the other hand, watch the film and I'm hoping you can enjoy it anyway. The picture quality is bad, but the quality of the story, the quality of the film, I think there's something very, very charming and very thought-provoking about this. I'm hoping it's enjoyable anyway. Watch it, discuss with your partner. The film clip is 15 minutes long in total, spread over those two short video clips. Questions: what do you think about the film? Your first impressions, your first reactions. Second question: the film is set in a period setting. It's made in 2006, but it's set in 1952. Why? Was human sexuality different in 1952? And my final question: the tone of the film is kind of interesting. It's a kind of comedy, isn't it? You know, we find ourselves naturally laughing at many moments in the film. So it's like a romantic comedy. But is it? Is it really a comedy? You know, it has that lightness of tone on the surface, but is this really a comedy we're watching? Enjoy the film, watch the film, natter with your partner. What do you think? Pause here. Unpause here. What can we say about it? Maybe it's easiest to answer the last question first. Is this a comedy? I mean, it's certainly funny, and the funny moments are really, really nice. You can really enjoy those funny scenes. At the beginning, for example, when they're changing in the toilet and they're making these noises, and the old lady's looking all bothered. Isn't that lovely? Or the scene at the end when one of the characters is invited to get undressed. On the other hand, it's quite clear that the comedy, along with the romance actually, is a way to push the story forwards. In a sense, there's nothing light about the topics discussed in this film. We watch it from the safety of our bedrooms in 2020, but actually this is a film telling us about different times. And effectively, I would say this film is a film about human rights. The rights of these people to live out their identity or their sexuality is being restricted. They're being subject to discrimination because of characteristics of their person. This is a film about human rights violations. So in a sense, the likeness of the film is an interesting way of giving us access to some very, very disturbing questions about how people have been oppressed in the past. So for me, a very funny film, but at the same time, a very, very serious film. The question, was sexuality different in 1952? One of my students said to me, Magnus, not at all. We can assume it was hardly different at all. But what was different was people's ability to live out their sexuality, people's abilities to actually have experiences with their sexuality. That was highly limited, highly restricted. I think that's an eloquent way of putting it. Good. So I hope you've enjoyed these first two clips. I want to introduce you now to the last piece of material. It's more audio than video. You're gonna hear some interesting interviews from a really interesting moment in gay rights history. When I say gay rights history or the gay rights movement, I'm being old-fashioned, aren't I? That's what people called all of this back when I was a kid in the 1990s. Today, I guess we'd say LGBT plus rights, okay? Key moment, the 1960s. The context here, speaking from a British or German perspective, homosexual acts between consenting adult men were partially legalized in some countries in this period. Examples, England, East and West Germany, some US states. So by the 1960s, something was happening, laws were changing. And my event, which I want to talk about here, is from 1969, right at the end of this decade, and we call this event the Stonewall riots. The Stonewall riots. We're going to listen to interviews of people who were there. You're going to hear this from the mouths of the people who made these experiences. And a bunch of the people interviewed here are interesting people, actually. They were open about their homosexuality, open about their cross-dressing, even way back then. The video is called Stonewall 40 years on, or 40 years later, excuse me. It's worth noting this film clip itself is 10 years old. We've recently celebrated the 50th anniversary of this historic event. Watch the film, or I should say listen to the film. It's mostly audio listening material. You're going to hear all of these stories from these people who were there. What do you think about their stories? Which ones stay in your mind especially? And how do you feel when you hear these stories today? Some people say it's quite moving to hear stories about a world which was so different, going back 50 years to the late 1960s. Watch that clip, enjoy discussing it with your partner. I'm not going to say any more about that. I think the stories actually stand for themselves really, really beautifully. I'll simply come to a close now. Normally I give you further reading. I guess here I have to give you further listening, don't I? Further tunes. There you are. Check that out if you want to. I hope you've enjoyed this clip. Looking forward to the next.